a critical aspect of next year's benchmarking reports. If you're here today, you most likely signed up for the working group online. But if you received the invite from someone else, please make sure you sign up for our email list so you can get the latest details. And that link should be in the chat momentarily. So on today's call, we have Sam Furio, Outreach Coordinator for the Building Decarbonization Division at the Department of the Environment. So Sam, if you could come off, say hi for a minute.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Sam. So I will kick us off with some run of show information, and then I'll hand it over to Sam to walk you through the nitty-gritty of third-party verification. This session will be recorded and uploaded to the Maryland Department of the Environment's BEPS Working Group YouTube playlist. We will post links to the slides and any other resources shared during today's session in the description of the video on YouTube. And we will also send an email to everyone when that video has been uploaded. There is a link for the YouTube playlist in the chat now, if you're interested. So today, we're going to have some opportunities for a moderated Q&A and an open discussion. So in the middle of our presentation, we'll break for Q&A. If you have a question about anything we're talking about today, you can write it in the Q&A feature. And that feature can be found in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. It looks like 9 dots in a square. So you'll click on that and then click Q&A. There's also a discussion, and that discussion will be specifically about third-party verifier credentials, and that's going to be towards the end of the presentation today. So to participate in the open discussion portion, you will need to click the raise hand feature. That's going to be at the bottom of the screen. We'll send you a request to come off mute, and we'll remind everyone about how that works again later on. So without further ado, let's get started. So the agenda for today, we are going to give a status update for Building Energy Performance Standards, which we call BEPS. So we'll give a status update on that. Then we'll be talking about third-party verification, data quality, and process, and third-party verifier credentials and discussion, and that Q&A that you see at the bottom of your screen, we're actually going to break for that before the discussion. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Sam, who will walk you through the latest.
All right. Thank you, Danny. And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here in this special session of the Benchmarking and Reporting Working Group. We've got a good amount of people on today's call, which we love to see. A lot of maybe new faces that are maybe just joining our working group for the first time, or have maybe not seen a presentation from our team before. So as always with these webinars, we do a little bit of background on how BEPS came to be and where BEPS is now before diving into the nitty-gritty. So just a little bit of background. So always have to give a nod to the Climate Solutions Now Act of 2022, which sets Maryland on a new path to reduce its climate pollution. The Climate Solutions Now Act set some of the most ambitious climate goals in the nation, and they are, for our state of Maryland. And those climate goals are to reduce statewide greenhouse gas emissions from all sectors. So the building sector, the transportation sector, every piece of our economy like that, we're going to reduce that 60% by 2031, and then economy-wide, we're going to achieve net zero by 2045. So very ambitious goals for the state of Maryland. Our team focuses on the building sector. And so the building sector in Maryland emits more than all of the power plants in Maryland combined. So there's a large chunk of our statewide emissions are coming from the building sector. And so this is a very critical area for us to work on achieving these emissions reductions. And so, focusing on this building sector, that's what our team is working on here at the Department of the Environment. We have a suite of programs that are going to be focusing on the building sector. And BEPS, Building Energy Performance Standards for Large Buildings, is just one of those programs. And BEPS is here to reduce emissions from large buildings, reduce energy costs for Marylanders, and improve indoor and outdoor air quality for Marylanders. And so, if you're just tuning in for the first time, these are the state's climate goals. And if you want to read more about our efforts in all sectors, and also, in addition to the building sector, you can read the Climate Pollution Reduction Plan online today. But today we are here to talk about BEPS. So, kind of where are we now with the BEPS program? So we achieved a big milestone this year. We just passed the first year benchmarking deadline at the end of September. So we are officially through that deadline. So, thank you to everyone who, put forth the effort this year, or is continuing to put forth the effort in getting their 2024 benchmarking data in, or their 2024 exemption requests. So we really appreciate all the effort. We know there's, a good learning curve with getting everything set up for benchmarking in the first year. So on, September 30th was that benchmarking deadline for this year. On October 1st, we sent out notices of required action to buildings that we had not heard from, or we hadn't received a benchmarking report, or we hadn't received an exemption request for. And so if you're one of those people that received a notice, or you know someone who received a notice, and you're still wondering kind of what steps you need to take, that is okay. That's understandable. Just follow the checklist that's on the back of the notice and use that in tandem with our benchmarking guide. And that should help you get from start to finish in this process, whether you're benchmarking or submitting an exemption request. And so, submitting your benchmarking report or submitting an exemption form satisfies that notice that was sent out. So if you've benchmarked and you've shared your data with us through Energy Star Portfolio Manager, we know that folks are wondering kind of what their status is. Did we receive their data? Was it a successful connection? Well, we've been updating the BEPS portal as with chunks of batches of updates as we download the data from Portfolio Manager. And we are aiming to do another update to the BEPS portal later this week, and that'll comprise buildings that have submitted benchmarking reports or exemption forms up to mid-November. So if you've been kind of wondering what your status is and you got something in to us prior to mid-November, check on the BEPS portal later this week, and you're going to be able to see if check next to your building and see if there's a status sitting there for it. And if you see this status and you're kind of wondering what it means, we have a chart of definitions in the BEPS portal user guide, which, well, Danny so graciously just dropped in the chat, but it's clickable here when you get the PDF of these slides, and it's also will be in the YouTube description of this video when we upload it. So check back there. You can also find the BEPS portal guide in the BEPS portal at the top of the screen. There's a blue help button. You just click on that. So if you've submitted a benchmarking report, you're going to be looking for a status that says data received to confirm that we've got that connection established and we're able to see the data. Now, if you submitted an exemption determination, some folks are asking, when are they going to hear about that determination? When will they get a result? Just all you need to do at this point, if you submitted a form, is just wait for our email. We will be emailing you with our determination when it is our compliance program finalizes it. So just hang tight. You don't need to do anything in the interim. Just wait for that email from our team on your determination. And finally, we understand this is the first year of the program. And again, we appreciate everyone's efforts to date in getting this ball rolling. And we understand that there's some learning curve to all this. So if you need additional time, email us, and really just keep us apprised of your efforts. So that's kind of where we are currently, and let's move to kind of looking ahead for the program over the next few years. So, next year, just about 6 months away, actually, is the next benchmarking deadline. So, building owners who, if you're a building owner or maybe you represent building owners, that next deadline's already coming up again. It's June 1st, 2026. And building owners are going to have to report their 2025 calendar year data to us. So, most of the processes for getting this 2025 data, established and sent to us is all the same. You've gotten your connections established in Portfolio Manager with your utility provider if you choose to go that route. And so getting your 2025 data loaded will be a lot easier now that you've gotten these frameworks established through this first year. But the big change that's going to be taking place for this next requirement is this third-party verification requirement, which is the reason we're all here today. And I'm going to have plenty to talk about on that in later slides. So just want to leave that there for a second. That's going to be the big change for next year. And then, 5 years down the road, covered buildings are going to need to start meeting the phased emission standards in 2030 or pay for those excess emissions. Again, this program is aiming to reduce emissions from large buildings to assist in meeting the state's climate goals. So in addition to that emissions standard, that is the only standard currently in the program, but we also intend to adopt an energy efficiency standard called Site Energy Use Intensity. In that adoption process, we intend to adopt it in 2027. So if you're, assessing your building's performance out of the data you're, getting back this year, and you're starting to assess improvements to your property, we recommend not installing any inefficient electric equipment, as just, we intend to adopt this energy efficiency standard. So we'd advise avoiding that kind of inefficient equipment if you're making upgrades. Additionally, a piece of legislation went through the Maryland legislative session this last legislative session earlier this year. It was House Bill 49, and it's established some new requirements for the BEPS program, which I will get into on the next slide. But that is also something that we're looking to do over the next few years. It is required that we implement these changes, and so we will be working on implementing those as they were written, and Danny will be dropping a link to that House bill text in the chat as well. So there's a lot of changes upcoming and ways to provide feedback, and I think for everyone on this call, or if you're interested in taking part, we have a stakeholder advisory working group that just kicked off a couple weeks ago. We just uploaded session 1 to YouTube, so watch that session, and we'd love for you to get involved in the working group and provide feedback on these upcoming changes to the program. So that House Bill 49 I mentioned, what does it entail? So as I said, this was a bill that went through this last legislative session. It established some changes for the program that were set on October 1st of this year. So many of these changes will be phased in over the next few years. So if you're not on our general email list, again, I think it's pinned in the chat. Get on our general email list to hear the latest about these House Bill 49 changes. I'm going to walk you through the high-level changes now, but buildings in Montgomery County, which has its own county BEPS program, are no longer required to participate in this statewide program. Covered buildings that have a SCIF, or a sensitive compartmented information facility, when operated by a defense agency, an intelligence agency, the U.S. General Services Administration, the state, or a contractor to such agency will be able to apply for exemption from the EUI targets. These buildings will also be able to apply for additional flexibility if they have trouble meeting those benchmarking requirements. Additionally, for exemptions, hospitals will be eligible to apply for total exemption. And starting, with these changes, covered buildings will need to pay $100 annually for each covered building they report. So this reporting fee will help MDE provide resources to covered buildings as they work to modernize and meet the performance standards. And so, speaking of the performance standards, there will be additional exclusions and credits in the program. So energy use associated with steam sterilization equipment and emergency backup generators in healthcare facilities, labs, assisted living and nursing facilities, military buildings, and buildings used for life sciences will be excludable. And additionally, the energy use for emergency backup generators will also be excludable for critical infrastructure. And finally, to close out this slide, there will be credits available for on-site renewable energy generation against the energy use intensity standards, those energy efficiency standards, and also on-site use of biomethane against the net direct emissions standard. So, these changes became effective on October 1st. Some of these forms for these exemptions are currently available on the BEPS portal. So if these are of interest to you and you're looking to pursue some of these changes, I'd recommend tuning into the BEPS portal to see what forms are there. So that kind of, I'm going to close out my updates on BEPS before we get into third-party verification. I just want to talk about some real quick resources if, maybe this is your first webinar with us or, you still want to read more about the program. So, again, these buttons on this slide are clickable. So when you get the PDF of these slides, you can just go right to here and click on all of them to get where you need to go. Just on the left side of the screen for the BEPS program, the benchmarking guide is always going to be the one-stop shop for benchmarking guidance and getting from start to finish each year for the benchmarking requirement. We have an FAQ that will always be updating with questions we receive from you all, and so I always recommend tuning into that. Getting on that newsletter button will take you to our email list. It's going to make sure that you get the latest that we're releasing on the program. And YouTube, as always, that's where we're putting all of our working group recordings. And if you're more of a visual learner, we have visual versions of like benchmarking resources there as well that could be helpful for you. And if you lose track of any of this stuff, our website is where this is all housed. So use those buttons to your advantage. And then I'm just going to pitch the Maryland Energy Administration. Our sister agency has an initiative called the Clean Buildings Hub, which empowers building owners in Maryland to make well-informed investments in their properties by connecting them to financial, educational, and technical assistance resources, and focusing on energy investments. And so really what that means is that they connect you to resources to help you with every step of the building decarbonization process. So if you're looking for resources that are relevant for you, I really recommend tuning into the Clean Buildings Hub. They also do their own webinars. They have an awesome newsletter that I think is a must-have, and they release that on a frequent basis. So sign up for that Clean Buildings Hub newsletter, and I think we might be dropping a link for that. Yep, thank you, Danny. Link for that newsletter in the chat as well. So with that, let's dive into third-party verification. So first things first, what's kind of the background, what's the theme for this third-party verification process? It's really, having good quality data. And so it's really in everyone's best interest to have good quality data for the BEPS program. You know, as I said on the House Bill 49 slide, we're going to be, making implementation or, reviewing data submitted from 2025 to inform the program going forward. And so, we'll be using that data to review the performance standards and determine if they're accurate or if we need to make adjustments. And so, and also in general, having accurate data helps building owners, efficiently assess improvements to their buildings if they do need to make them. So it is in everyone's best interest to have good quality data. And I would just make a plug for our friends in DC who have their own BEPS program. They recently ran a report on the effectiveness of their third-party verification process. They found that 25% of their buildings had updates based on the third-party verification overview, which we'll be reviewing. And 70% of the corrections they were seeing were for square footage corrections. And then 7% of those corrections were for data use. So the vast majority were for accurate square footage. And so, going forward, doing what you can to ensure you have, a good accurate square footage count for your building is going to, assist you well in the long term. So, what data quality steps do you need to take? So annually, as you're doing your benchmarking, you're going to be checking the meter counts and the data from your utility provider if you're getting your data directly from them. You're always going to have to run that data quality checker in Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is going to automatically check for gaps and overlaps in your data, as well as some, wonky values. And then every 5 years, we're going to have this verification process where a verifier will have to sign off on the submission. So getting into this overview, as I just said, it's required every 5 years starting this next year. And the verifier who signs off on these benchmarking reports must meet certain credentials. For our program, let's say you're already working with a third party to do your benchmarking. That third party can also be your verifier if they meet the certain credentials. And we'll be talking about the credentials a little later on. And then additionally, let's say you're maybe a developer and you just finished a new construction building that is a BEPS building. You're not going to have to benchmark until you have that first full year of calendar data available. But for those new construction, you're going to have that first report verified, even if it falls between this 5-year period between verifications that I'm going to get into. So again, really, the whole point of this process is to check for errors and to have a second set of eyes on the benchmarking report that building owners are submitting. And getting your documentation ducks in a row now is just going to make the verification process a lot easier for you next year. With proper documentation, verification really only takes a few hours of work. So what's the timeline for verification? Again, I said every 5 years. We're starting this next year. So by June 1, 2026, building owners are going to have their calendar year 2025 data verified. By then 5 years later, in June 1, 2031, verifiers are going to verify the 2030 data. And in 2036, the verifiers are going to verify 2035, 2041, they're going to verify 2040, and so on. And if you've been kind of tuned into the BEPS process, these actually line up with the compliance periods for the program. So 2025 starts the baseline compliance period where you're just reporting. So that's the first 5 years. 2030 is when the interim standard 1 starts, and that goes from 2030 to 2034. 2035 to 2039 is interim standard 2, and then 2040 and so on is the final standard. So that's kind of how the timeline works for verification. Just keep that in mind. We're verifying at the start of these compliance periods. So what does a verifier need to review for these benchmarking reports? So the verifier must confirm at a minimum. They're going to confirm the basic property information and use details, such as the accurate gross floor area and allocation to appropriate property types. Again, as they found in DC, the vast majority of corrections from third-party verification was for the gross floor area. So that's, getting an accurate gross floor area right out of the gate is going to help you in the long term. Building occupancy is another use detail that will be, or property information that will be confirmed. And then for energy consumption, they'll also be verifying total energy use, additional fuels like delivered propane, and then total energy consumption meters as well. And finally, to finalize this review, the verifier will need to add their signature and their credential as well. So how does this verification look in Energy Star Portfolio Manager? So I'm sure if you're representing a building owner, or of building owners, they are already set up in Portfolio Manager for this this first benchmarking year that we had. And just like building owners had to do this year, where they share the property with MDE so that we can access the data, they're going to be doing that same kind of share with the actual verifier that they elect. So they're going to give that, step 1, they're going to give that verifier access to the building in Portfolio Manager. That verifier is going to complete and send a data verification checklist to the building owner. And the verifier is then going to mark that building as verified in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And again, in the benchmarking guide, that's the one-stop shop for benchmarking. There on page 19 is guidance on marking the reports as verified. So if you're a building owner and the verifier sends you the data verification checklist, just make sure you retain that for your records. Just trying to get to the arrow here so I could advance to the next slide. There we go. So what happens if an error is found in the verification process? So if you are notified of an inaccuracy by a third party or by MDE, then the building owner needs to provide an updated benchmarking report to MDE within 30 days. And basically, if you're notified of an adjustment and the fix for that adjustment pushes you beyond the benchmarking deadline, then you're going to need to submit one of those data correction forms that you might have seen on the BEPS portal. Basically, that just tells our program that, hey, there was an adjustment to this data and we just need to re-download it so that we get the freshest data available for your building. So that's how the data notification process would work, and how you adjust for those if it pushes you beyond the deadline. And so, another component here for this verification process, and an alternative for folks as you're looking for verifiers is, if you know of someone who has the credentials that are eligible for verifiers, and you have your own subset of buildings, and maybe they have their own subset of buildings that they're reporting, you can verify each other's buildings. Again, the idea here is data quality and getting a second set of eyes on the benchmarking reports. So in this visual on the screen, we've got Jen and Darren, who both are representing 2 different building owners, and both hold the eligible credentials for third-party verification. Jen can go ahead and verify Darren's buildings, and vice versa. Then Darren can verify Jen's buildings. So, this is an option for building owners when they need to seek a verifier. And, just noting that, again, the idea here is getting good quality data, and we expect the same level of ethics across the board of, whatever route you choose to take with verification. And so, this is, a big change for next year, and there are some resources out there now to assist building owners with, seeking a verifier, with better understanding the process. And so that Maryland Clean Buildings Hub that I mentioned earlier within the Maryland Energy Administration worked with a partner nonprofit, the Institute for Market Transformation's Building Innovation Hub, to create a set of resources to help building owners make sense of this requirement. And also, this package includes frequently asked questions, a vendor request for proposal or RFP, and also a vendor scope of work. So I think we're dropping that in the chat as well, for folks. And so, please use that resource to learn more, or to even, get your own scopes of work out. And so with that, we're going to do a quick Q&A break before we get into the credentials discussion of this webinar, just so we don't push off too many questions to the end. We just want to see what we can get through now. So I'll pass it back to Danny to walk through.
All right. Thank you.
Received.
Thank you, Sam. So yeah, we've had some questions coming into the Q&A feature. If you haven't seen yours posted, that's okay. That's fine. But we have received them, and we're going to get to as many as we can here. So if you, again, have a general question, please write it into the Q&A feature, which is at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. It looks like those 9 dots in a square. And then click that, and then click on the Q&A. So I'll wait about another minute just to give people a chance to put some more questions into the Q&A. And then thanks. Okay, really appreciate people putting questions in the Q&A. And if there are questions that are coming in that are, related just specifically to credentials for third-party verifiers, we're gonna save those for the discussion shortly. Okay, so Sam, if you're ready, I'm gonna send you a question your way. Okay.
Go for it.
So the first question coming your way. One of my buildings has a pending revision status in the BEPS portal for its exemption request, but I have not received an email specifying what information is required. When should I expect to receive an email regarding what is needed?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So for the pending revision, it sometimes depend on if you submitted a data correction request form. If you maybe you're requesting an extension on a building, that may have triggered the pending revision status in the BEPS portal. So if you submitted that, previously for that building, that might be, what caused that. And so it might be possible that, you've already corrected for that data adjustment. And so that should just be adjusted for on the next update to the BEPS portal when we re-download that data. But if there are, other reasons for the pending revision status, that is something that you can email our team about if you see that status hasn't changed. Again, we are experiencing a pretty large volume of form submissions and inquiries at this point, so it could just be that that status might change on the next update to the BEPS portal. So again, we're aiming to do that later this week. So I would check back there and see if that status updates for you. But if not, feel free to reach out to us to get more clarity on what that status means.
Awesome, Sam. Thank you for that. And that was a good question. Another question coming to you. If campus reporting is used, so this question is about the fee for submission. So if campus reporting is used, is the $100 for the campus or buildings in the campus?
Yeah, another good question. Thanks for that. And, for those types of implementation questions on House Bill 49 changes, I'm going to say, please bring that up at, sessions of our stakeholder advisory working group, which is intended for those implementation questions of those House Bill changes. And, I think also we'll, stay apprised of our email list because we'll be releasing more updates on how those changes are going to look in the future. And so specifically for the reporting fee for covered buildings, we'll be releasing guidance on that as well. So just stay apprised of our email list and also get on that stakeholder advisory working group.
Awesome, thank you. And before I ask the next question, I just wanted to let everybody know if we don't have time to get to your question, please feel free to email us. We'll make sure we have our email here at the end of the presentation and someone will get back to you. So our next question for you, Sam, is if we've submitted a request to change our square footage in the UBID, how long will that take to update?
Sure, yeah. So if you submitted, basically the square footage that you see in the BEPS portal is based off primarily existing data that we had for, from the buildings from the state tax data. So that is an estimated gross square footage number. So we will be updating the square footage information, address information, property type information based off what you submit to us in Energy Star Portfolio Manager in your reports. So that'll automatically happen based off what you submit through your reports or through your exemption forms. I don't have a time frame on when that update will take place, but that just that will already be in place by taking part in this process. And now if you submitted a separate request to change your square footage and you submitted a correction form through the BEPS portal, I just recommend that you hang tight and wait for any notification from our compliance program on best steps forward or any changes that you need to make.
Great, thank you. We have another question here for you, Sam. And the question is, I am an on-site consultant at MDOT, Maryland Department of Transportation, and working on my ASHRAE BEAP certification. For the approved third-party data verification options, would I be allowed to review and certify MDOT's buildings and Energy Star Portfolio Manager, even if I submitted them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I think I guess pulling it back into more of a general example, the key terms being third party. If you are not an MDOT employee, you are a third party that is doing the benchmarking for them, and you also hold the eligible credential for third party verification, then that would be allowed. But again, the the intention here, or that key term being third party. Internal employees for the building owner cannot be the verifier. It is a we're looking for a second set of eyes to be on that report. Now, so in this situation, I can't give a confirmation because I don't know the specifics of your situation, but we are allowing for folks that are also doing the benchmarking, as long as they hold the credentials, to be the third party verifier if they are the third party.
Sam, thank you. Do we have time for one more before we continue?
Yeah, we can do one more.
Okay. This one says, we are a third party hired to perform benchmarking for properties. We need clarity. Would we be able to both benchmark and provide third party verification from one of our certified professionals?
Yes, let me just find that one. Yeah, so again, same response as kind of what I just gave for our MDOT attendee, a key term being third party. If you are benchmarking for a building owner already, and you hold the eligible credential to be a verifier, you can also do the verification for them in tandem with the benchmarking. I think our preference is to have a second set of eyes on the verification to get back at this data quality effort here, and ensuring that everyone has good quality data going forward. But if you are the third party and doing a benchmarking and you hold the other credentials, you can do both.
Great, thank you for clarifying that. So we are going to move on here because we also want to get to an open discussion. So I just wanted to thank everyone who did submit questions, and we apologize if your question was not addressed quite yet. Please email it to us if you'd like to. Don't leave without getting some follow-up from us somehow over email. And just thank you for the questions. We do update our FAQs based on these questions, and so it is really beneficial for us to receive them, and hopefully you can get your answer in a timely fashion. So we're going to move on to the next slide, and I'll bring it back to Sam.
All right. Thank you, Danny. And yeah, thank you everyone for your questions. Moving into discussion now. So those credentials that we talked about for third-party verifiers, these credentials on the screen are currently approved and good to use for next year. So I'm going to run through these, and I'm also going to, on the next slide, talk about some credentials that have been proposed to us through a Google form that we released a few weeks ago, and then we're going to go do some discussion on the current and proposed credentials. So just the current credentials as they're listed is a professional engineer, or PE, license issued within the United States, a licensed architect issued within the United States, the AEE Certified Energy Manager, or CEM, license or certification, and also specifically the ASHRAE Building Energy Assessment Professional certification. So those are the currently approved credentials. And as I said, we released a form for feedback a couple weeks ago, which we will be reopening and have another 2-week period to propose additional credentials. But these are the credentials that we received feedback on. And so just going through the list, we received recommendation for the Building Performance Institute Multifamily Building Analyst certification. This certification conducts energy audits and performs overall building performance evaluations of multifamily buildings. These professionals examine the relationship between the building's various systems and apply knowledge and skills to complete comprehensive evaluations of existing buildings to make prioritized recommendations that improve occupant health, safety, and comfort, as well as the building's energy efficiency and durability. So that was Building Performance Institute Multifamily Building Analyst. We also have the ASHRAE, specifically ASHRAE, Certified Decarbonization Professional, or CDP. This program, which is initiated and funded by the ASHRAE Center for Building Decarbonization, is an international certification that validates the competency of decarbonization professionals to assess, analyze, and develop effective and sustainable strategies to reduce or eliminate the life cycle carbon footprint of buildings. Next up, we have Energy Management Professional, or EMP. This certification was developed to meet and exceed the energy management standards and needs of today, and is accredited by ANAB and recognized by the DOE's Better Buildings program in the Building Energy Manager category, and provides a commissioning-based approach to energy management that other certifications do not offer. So that was EMP, Energy Management Professional. And then finally, we have a proposal for attorneys at law, and the definition of an attorney at law being one who is legally appointed to transact business on another's behalf. So those are the proposed credentials that we received through this feedback process. Again, we'll be opening up a form for folks to provide additional credentials to us, and it'll be open for another 2 weeks. But with that, just wanted to allow some time for some discussion and see if folks had thoughts that, on either these current or proposed credentials. And if you do, you can just raise your hand, your e-hand, and we'll send you a request to come off mute. All right. Keith is first one up.
So before we get started, I just wanted to hop in and let everyone know. So 2 things to keep in mind during this discussion portion. 1, please try to keep your time to 1 minute or less to give everyone time to share. And then also please state your name and affiliation. And so we have Keith up first. All right, come on in, Keith.
Good morning. Keith Rinaldi from Fidelity Energy and Sustainability. It's a quick question. In the January BEPS benchmarking guide, bottom of page 18 presents the third-party verification qualifications. It lists certified energy manager. Is that no longer going to be accepted? Which seems a little odd because CEMs have been doing benchmarking for probably 30 plus years at this point.
We have the certified energy manager credential on that current list on the left side of the screen currently.
I see. All right. Sorry, I wasn't on the last screen. I didn't see this. My apologies.
No, that's okay. No, it's all good. But yeah, that is a currently accepted credential. So, anything on the left side of the screen there, if you've got it, then, or someone who's got it, then they can verify for, next year's benchmarking report. And then, through this proposal process, additional credentials could be added. And thank you for that, Keith. And any other thoughts or anything at this time?
Looks like we have Karen was next, so.
All right, Karen, we're sending you a request.
Come on in.
Hey, Danny and Sam. Thanks for having this meeting. I was the person that submitted the EMP, the Energy Management Professional, from the Energy Management Association. I just wanted to note for others on the call that the EMP is recognized in Montgomery County under their BEPS law, and that BG&E and other utilities have chosen EMA to do their BEPS education in the last year and a half. So just a little more context.
Thank you for that, Karen. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being here.
Next, we have Ron. Sam, if you could allow that. Ron, you should be able to come on in now. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Hey, thanks. Ron Roberts here with Conservice. I got a question regarding attorneys. I myself am PE and a CEM, and my company actually submits 12,000 benchmarking a year nationwide. So we're really, used to seeing a lot of the jurisdictions what they consider acceptable. I've never seen attorneys. What is the logic between attorneys? All the rest of this group, except the architects, if you will, are energy professionals at some level, right? But then you got architects, so then you got attorneys. So what's the logic behind attorneys? I don't see why they'd be acceptable.
Yeah, thanks for that. I can't really provide any insight into why that was, specifically proposed. That just was a credential that, was proposed, and we're just bringing it to the group for any feedback. So, appreciate your thoughts on that, and so we'll be taking that into account.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and say Louisa is next in line.
Yeah, I'm having trouble logging in.
Right, Louisa, come on in.
Okay, too many buttons were popping up. I would kind of follow up on what Ron was saying, that I'm a little concerned at seeing attorneys at law as a possible. I mean, while there certainly are some non-technical aspects like the building use that are included, there are also things that are definitely more energy focused. And while you may have attorneys that know this stuff, just as you may have PEs who don't, I think I'd be more comfortable seeing folks who are definitely have the energy engineering technical background. And I would think that if you have an attorney that has that background, they probably could easily have these other credentials as well. So just use those other credentials. I think we want to make sure that some of the very simple things are correct, but we really need to make sure that the data makes sense, and you need the more technical background for that. So.
Thank you, Louisa, for your contribution, for your comment here. I don't see any other hands raised. When we do have a few moments if someone else wants to chime in. Great. Looks like we have Rebecca next. In just a moment, Rebecca, you should be able to unmute.
Yeah.
Come on in, Rebecca.
Hi, all. I was just wondering if you guys, this is Rebecca Arnold from New Ecology. And I'm just wondering what the vetting process is going to be for the proposed credentials, if you guys have a system by which you're planning on evaluating them, or if it's going to be an internal conversation, or if it's going to be external.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. I think, and thanks for being here and for that question. I think, part of this process is, we wanted to bring this to the working group and to stakeholders for proposed credentials. As for determining which ones will make it through to, the proposed or the finalized list, I would just recommend staying apprised of this working group, and we'll be doing our own evaluation based off the information that was submitted to us, and also the feedback that was shared here. And if you have additional feedback on the credentials, you can share that with us via our email or also via the the form that we've released for this process. So as far as timeline or review process, I would just recommend staying apprised of this working group and also our general email list. But we're in this feedback gathering phase right now, and we're going to be kind of evaluating that at this stage.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other thoughts or anything on these current or proposed credentials? All right. Well, we got a couple minutes left. I think maybe Danny, do we want to try and address a few more Q&A questions, or maybe one more?
Sure. Let's see. And maybe this, if you could go back to the slide where you had the Jen and Darren diagram, the verification exchange. This question is, and this really might just be something on our end, but let's clarify here. Someone wanted clarification on, in this example, why Jen can't verify the buildings that she's benchmarked.
Oh, okay. So that is also a good. That's a fair point. If Jen is, let's say, Jen's internal to the company that owns the buildings, then and she's doing the benchmarking for them, she cannot be the verifier, the key term being third party. And that's a good clarification there for this visual we have, being that Jen would be an internal employee of that of that building owner. Again, we're just coming back to, we need a third party here and a second set of eyes on the report. So Darren having the credentials and being outside of Jen's company or outside of the building owner's company, can be that verifier for them. Now, basically, in your question, if Jen is an external party from the building owner and is benchmarking for the building owner and also holds the eligible credentials, then her third-party company can also do the verification as well. So that's a good clarification, and one that's good feedback. We can use that to improve this example here. But just coming back to the key terms being third party and kind of second set of eyes.
Great. Thank you, Sam. We had so many great questions submitted, and we were only going to get able to get to a few, but as Sam just put up on the screen here, this is our email address that you can forward your questions to.
And yeah, just, I know there was a good bit of questions, and we really appreciate all the interaction on today's call and feedback. And, we'll be taking all of this into account and, working to get information out to everyone about this process. So just, make sure you're on our email lists for this working group. Also get on that stakeholder advisory working group as well. And, we'll be releasing information as we have it to everyone. So we do really appreciate everyone being here. And I think we got the form. Did we send out the form in the chat? Let me see.
I'll go ahead and put that in.
I've got it. So, if you have additional credentials to propose, just go ahead and fill out that form, with information on the credential, the website, and, kind of requirements to complete it. And, we'll incorporate that into this process as well. So that'll be open for another 2 weeks until December 16th. Yep. So, just feel free to also put thoughts in there if you'd like to propose something new. But look for an email from us when this video goes up on YouTube with all the resources. And we do thank you all for being here today, and hope to see you next time. Have a good week.